Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Thought for the day. Rewards of good and evil. Good and evil yield not the same results. Evil leads to a state of degradation. Good leads to a state of elevation. Today we speak about differentiating between good and evil. The verse we quoted above in translation defines good and evil in terms of the results of vipaka they produce. Evil or adhamma leads to degradation of the human, while dhamma or goodness upgrades his life. In terms of life in the world, basic goodness of man depends on his total adjustment to the world he lives in, together with man and bird and beast, with the minimum damage to or destruction of what is within it. Life in the world, even according to the latest findings of the top-class scientists, has to be one of perfect adjustment to what is known as the ecosystems of the world. This is how the great scientists of the world express this idea. Quote, "The one process now going on that will take millions of years to correct is the loss of genetic and species diversity by the destruction of natural habitats. This is the folly our descendants are least likely to forgive us." Unquote. From Edward Wilson's In Biophilia Hypothesis. Life of every living thing has to be respected. This includes all forms of life, both human and non-human. Any injury to it at any point to serve the whims and fancies of man, quite often under the misleading cover of divine sanctions in religious teachings and practices, invariably leads to ecological imbalances. Thinking on these lines of non-violence is now the order of the day world over. But today, governments everywhere are so stupefied, and politicians turn to so much to self-seeking power building that they can hardly get anywhere near to these lines of sensible thinking. This is why the first precept of Buddhist Panchasila emphatically begins with the respect for all forms of life. Panatipata Veramani is not the mere non-killing of a fowl for the table, for your lunch or your dinner. All over the world, respect for life is taking a new turn, reflecting a recognition of and a respect for everything that lives on this planet. Such people not only shun and keep away from animal foods, for example fish, meat and eggs, but even do not utilize anything which is in its preparation causes injury to animal life. Even pharmaceutical products which are tested on animals are totally rejected by certain groups of people. In a country where teaching and learning of Buddhism has been completely veered in the direction of an academic exercise, whether in the schools or in the temples or in the Pirivenas, for the award and receipt of certificates or degrees, the content of Buddhism gets seriously abridged and at the same time lamentably distorted. For instance, in this country, not to know that the current practice of observing Poede Uposatha or Atasil for a limited period of time from morning only till evening of the same day is I tell you, a complete perversion. Who among monks or laymen knows about it? Or who is honest and brave enough to tell others about it? It is well worth doing an island-wide survey. In a Buddhist country like Sri Lanka, we must be able to reflect a far greater degree of love towards all forms of life. Let us join the saner and more humanitarian world of today by cutting down the consumption of animal foods. The worldwide campaign in this direction is overwhelming. Any stubborn attempt to resist it is to express our greed, to eat in support of our Epicurean philosophy of eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die. But let us not die with an animal philosophy of the jungle, of merely eating and drinking. At least a little more than that. Let us make an honest endeavor.